War Eagle War Report family, we thank you for tuning in to this latest weekend tailgate, which is brought to you by our good friends at GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Listen, if you're a restaurant owner and you're looking for ways to save energy, but you're not quite sure how to do that, guys, you need to go over to gwt2energy.com. The weekend tailgate starts right now.
You are now listening to the unmistakable sound of the War Report Weekend Tailgate. It's your boy, Ike Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you guys. Thanks again for tuning in to the latest and greatest weekend tailgate. Mike G is taking the day off today, but B Will is back, joining myself and Ike. And we always have our War Report community, and you guys already know what to do because you're doing it right now. Smash the like button, drop a War Eagle in the comments, and please be sure to help us out by sharing the word, sharing it on social media that we're out here dropping great content. Please hashtag us at Get Your Weight Up, and if you're on Twitter, at us, please. That would help us out a ton. Help people find us the way you found us, guys. We will appreciate that a great deal. Ike, can you let the people know, man, what we got coming up this week?
Absolutely, man. We are doing all the things that we normally do. Let's start by making sure you understand how to be a part of what we got going on. And that is becoming a member. Listen, supporter or insider, doesn't matter to us. We just appreciate you being able to be well. What do they need to do?
Get us off these jobs.
Absolutely, 100%. So if you want to help us do that, because listen, it's not just about us coming off of our jobs, it's having more time to be able to provide this great content for you all, right? So we want to be able to do this full time and get into it. Other ways that you can help and support, as always, we are in partnership with the Lee County Humane Society, making sure we take care of the beautiful puppies and kittens out there in the universe. You can see my guy Milo there, and I'll be down there with Mike G. You can also grab this little great tag right here out of our merch store if you want to be able to do that. That's another way that you can support that same cause. If you haven't heard already, we are giving away tickets to the Akron game, first game of the Brian Harsin era. 2 tickets are going to be going to a lucky person who supports us and what we're doing. The only way to get an entry now is to become a member of the War Report. So you have to join in order to get your entry into that supporter level. You're going to get 3 entries if you are, 2 entries. If you are an insider, you get 3 entries automatically just for doing that. So if you want to get those tickets or you want to get in on the auction for those tickets, then that's the way to do it. Hit the merch store. We got tons of merch that is available out there for you. That's Get Your Weight Up gear, the TWR standard gear. We got the Watch the Film gear that's out there. So make sure you get on top of that. But hey, you could possibly win you a Watch the Film t-shirt today. My man C-Dub has his on. I'm rocking mine today. You could get you a shirt today just by hashtagging Get Your Weight Up in the comments. We will draw that at the 1 hour mark. So if you want that, make sure you do that. And we will talk to them about all the lovely things they can get on this podcast.
Well, you can get the podcast at anywhere you get your podcast. It's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, even on Amazon Music and SoundCloud. We are there as well. What you're going to find there is our usual Wednesday and Sunday live shows. Just Wednesday right now. And it is concentrated and condensed into listenable form. So you don't have to hear the drawing, because why would you want to hear the drawing? You don't have to hear all of the advertisements like we're talking about right now. So you won't hear me talking about the podcast on the podcast Inception. But what it is everything that we did talk about on the show, all the fun that we have, referring even to you guys' comments on the show in audio form. So you can do it while you're cutting the grass, while you're folding laundry. If whatever you're doing in the house that you have to do where you can't sit in front of a screen, you're going to find it there. I just got 10 days ago, that Wednesday live where JG was with us up, because the last week was a bear for me at work. That's why we need you all to get us off these jobs so I can have this up in 2 days for y'all instead of having 10 days. We're going to have the previous Wednesday, the one that I missed, that's going to be up by Tuesday morning so we can get back into the swing of things. But yeah, you can find everything that you missed on the lives. If you do miss it, easily listen toable in podcast form.
Think you're muted. Think you're muted, Ike. Having a whole conversation.
My bad. I said that Justin said he likes the fact that the podcast logo looks like B Will's head. So I like that. That comment is out there.
Yeah, that's my little Scott Van Pelt thing. You know what I'm saying?
Also, too, man. While we're doing announcements, I definitely want to point out, guys, if you're not an insider, you will be getting tomorrow the interview we did with Josh Pate of 24/7 Sports. He came on to have a little bit of a conversation going into fall, previewing that. We asked him a few questions, a great conversation. Our insiders have already seen it. You definitely want to check that out tomorrow. That is Monday. I believe we're releasing that at, 10, guys. Does that sound about right? 10 o'clock on Monday morning, 10 Central Time. So you definitely want to check that out. Before we get into the actual show, we got a few things to discuss. Remember, I said these are the days where we're actually talking about position groups and we're actually breaking down, guys, what are our thoughts, how they're going to contribute this upcoming season. But before we get into all of that, I do want to take time out to just mention a few things. I want to say congratulations to the following individuals for completing their undergraduate degrees on yesterday. That goes out to cornerback Roger McCreary, linebacker Zacoby McClain, safety Smoke Monday, and wide receiver Shedrick Jackson. Congratulations to those gentlemen. And actually on Friday, cornerback Malcolm Askew actually received his graduate degree from Auburn. So
you know who else actually has a degree from Auburn University?
Who's that?
Little Cat.
That was a fun episode to listen to.
He's Little Cat now.
Yeah, Little Cat's got a
Little Cat. I heard Big Kitty. I heard a few other little names, but Little Cat, yes, he does have a degree. He does have a degree from Auburn University. But congrats to these guys for their recent achievement. They're also rest in peace to coaching legend Bobby Bowden. He was announced that he recently passed at the age of 91. Of course, we know that his son Terry Bowden was Auburn's coach during the 90s. Had some success there as well, but rest in peace to him. Definitely one of the best coaches. Florida State owes a lot to that man. So our condolences to his family as well as to the FSU family for losing a legend there. Guys, how y'all doing, man?
Doing all right.
All right for a Sunday?
Yeah.
All right.
No complaints.
Well, listen, let's go ahead and get to it. We got everything out the way. Fall camp has started, man. We finally made it to fall camp. The off season is officially over, and we are. Is it right under or is it right at 28 days? B. Will, you tweeted
today.
27 today. All right, so we're 27 today. So 27 days away from Auburn actually taking the field against Akron. Fall camp started on Friday with having split sessions. Auburn opened Friday with the veterans practicing in that morning and the newcomers in the evening. Also, some news around the program. It was announced this morning that Demetrius Robertson has arrived at Auburn. So that drama is over, if there ever was any drama with that. He'll be taking his physical today and will actually be practicing very soon on the field. Last live show on Wednesday, we gave our opinions. I talked a little bit about it. Ike gave his thoughts. Mike gave his thoughts. B. Will, you were out. What are you looking forward to this upcoming fall? Are there any I know you're excited about. I know you're very excited about the fact that we're finally here, as the Harsin era is less than 4 weeks away from kicking off. What are some things that you're looking forward to seeing during fall camp? What are some things that you hope gets achieved during fall camp?
You know, the offensive line has been getting a lot of sound bites talking about how they feel more confident, more physically ready, more mentally ready. I want that offensive line to prove us wrong. We've chopped up the film on them before in the off season when we had some chop it up with a pro, and we saw some of their deficiencies. But again, as we've repeated many times, fall camp has started. We don't have to talk about anybody by name, but we were lacking in coaching on the offensive line because of scheme as well. And it's completely possible that they are getting a bum rap or have gotten a bum rap because they weren't equipped to be great in the SEC at what they do. They are talking the talk. A lot of the position groups, and not just the offensive linemen, a lot of groups are like, no, we get it now. We see what we were missing, and we feel like we have it. They're confident. They're physically feeling better than they ever have, according to them. So I hope the offensive line is one of the main groups that can turn it around and be the best that they can be. We guys with injury histories who haven't gotten to prove what they can do, guys who maybe haven't gotten a fair shake in the two deep, but we see it now. We know it's a different day. We've turned the page. I want those guys to succeed because that is the biggest determining factor for our offense is, are those guys going to hold up, not only in run blocking, which they were decent at, but a combination of a better scheme that allows the offensive line to not be under duress and not have to hold up for so long. That's going to be great for them. And I think I would love for them to get a I told you so, probably more than any other position group. So that's what I'm looking for.
How much of this new profound confidence, because Nick Brahms has been speaking a lot about Will Friend. What do you think about the job? I mean, it's to be determined as to what job he's actually done. But in terms of these guys' confidence, how much do you attribute that to Will Friend getting in, having a spring to work with these guys to actually get them acclimated to what he wants them to do? How big of a factor do you think that's played?
Oh, man, it's got to be huge. It's got to be astronomical that not only do you get a new teacher, a new instructor on the finer points of your game to give you the finer points that you didn't have, but you had a whole class worth of lessons early. You got to put something on film to find out how you did. And then you get back in the classroom now with the summer workouts to fine tune your body and get more prepared to do what you saw you were going to have to do. And now you get to get prepared to actually execute it in a meaningful way with the same guy giving you pointers and teaching you how to play your position better than you've ever played it before. It's because that group had no transfers and nobody coming in brand new who missed the spring. They should benefit the most from coaching changes. Everybody else had people leave or come in. The linebackers did. I'll take that back. We didn't have any linebackers jump in there, but we had some outside edge guys who, so 3-4, we may have, some different contributions there. But offensive line, it was, you had some spots in the spring. You were getting looked at. You were getting reps. You were getting taught. And you get to put it all to use here in the fall and see how well you picked it up. Them being here for both fall, they should benefit the most. And they're talking like they see it. They're talking like they're getting it. So I mean, I'm ready to see it.
Ike, some of the reports I've heard, there's been countless videos of the guys just running through drills and not much to glean from that, but it's just happy to see it, right? I was going to ask about Brandon Council, and I actually see it's funny that Lawrence Robinson actually, shout out to you, man. He's asking, do we know if Council is healthier than previously thought? Harsin made it sound like he was getting normal work. I've been hearing that he's been not necessarily as the starter on the offensive line, but he's been getting a lot of work with those guys, which makes me seem like he's further along than I thought he would probably be, having missed a lot of time. Missed spring. I'm not sure how much work he was getting in the summer, but how encouraging is that to know that Council could actually be a starter game one, based off of what we're hearing so far, right?
Yeah, both Council and Troxel are reported to be fairly healthy. So the possibility of us having a couple of people that would provide us quality depth, even if they're not starting, is always a great thing. I think that was fundamentally, for me, that was the biggest issue with the offensive line outside of, what we've talked about with scheme and just the ability to kind of understand what's happening, but was just having to shuffle different players in and out constantly who had not had game experience, who didn't really know what they were doing when they got in there. So having more cohesion and guys who can step in and contribute immediately is always going to be a good thing. So I'm definitely hopeful that the offensive line, and from what B Will's saying, like when you're hearing the sound bites, it just underscores what we've all thought. Like there's no way you're a junior or a senior in college and you're like, oh man, that all makes sense to me now all of a sudden, right? Like it just you shouldn't be getting revelations your junior year or senior year about fundamentals of how to play a position. It might start to slow down for you and you're playing better or something like that, but you shouldn't just be like, what, really? Is that how that's supposed to work? Like, and getting technical, like it just, to me, that's frustrating to hear. Especially again, when you're supposed to be an offensive team, right? Like you're supposed to have people on your squad that are very hyper focused on your ability to play offense at every position. So hopefully we're going to have a lot of quality play along the offensive line. And for me, wide receiver is the one that I really want to thumb their nose at everybody and be like, see, we're better than what you guys thought. But offensive line is the one that really pulls it all together. If you can't block people, then it doesn't really matter how good your quarterback is. It doesn't really matter how good your running back can probably do a lot without a good offensive line. As we saw, Tank was amazing. But wide receivers are pretty much dead without a good offensive line. There's just no way to get them the ball. Looking forward to seeing their progression, and Council being healthy definitely is a big thing for me.
Another one of the sound bites we got, and we actually talked about this position group a week ago with the running backs, but Sean Shivers had an opportunity to talk a lot about their position group, and he spoke, of course, very highly of Tank, which, I mean, water is wet. What else is new there? Like, Tank is awesome, right? Yeah. But he talked about how, and I could sense a lot of confidence even in him going into this year, because he feels like this offense is catered for a guy like him, which we saw evidence of that in the spring game. He was very productive in competition with at running back. So we saw him being used in ways that we hadn't quite before. And he talked a lot about, leadership, Harsin expecting guys to actually lead the team, mentioning Tank, of course. Again, it's going to be determined because we haven't played a game yet, but it seems like he's asserting himself as a vocal leader, which, I mean, he's a senior. That doesn't surprise me. But how important do you think that in year one in the Harsin era that Auburn has guys who are not only productive, but actually very vocal in terms of making sure everyone is doing their job? Talk to me, B. Will.
It is critically important that the most senior people and your best players have bought in. That is astronomically important. If your best players are like, man, I don't know about this dude, I was getting more touches under the last dude, that's not what you want. You need the people who are your best players, which is why it's so important that Tank bought in the way that he did. He was all hyped up when we saw those workout videos and they're in the weight room and they're in drills. It's like Tank is going all in. That's your guy. That's the one guy that everybody in the nation can name on Auburn's team. Bo Nix, hit or miss, depending on if you like him or not. But that's the guy you got to look to. And Bo's bought in as well. So even if outside of Auburn, Bo might not be who you think of when you think of Auburn, but inside Auburn in the locker room, he's still the guy, because nothing else has happened to unseat him yet. So your best guys have bought in. They have set the tone. They have accepted the harsh workouts. They've accepted the stadium running. They've accepted whatever discipline gets doled out for, being late or not finishing drills hard. If they've accepted it, if you're not better than them, you got to accept it too. Yeah. And that's assuming that the people around didn't want to, but everybody may have bought in. But even if they didn't, are you better than Tank? No, we'll get to running. Get back on the bench. Do what you got to do so we can all be as ready as our best players are.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of having seniors, juniors and seniors. Zacoby bought in the way that he has. Papo being bought in the way that he has. And Papo was a high-end recruit. When you get your best recruits bought in, it may be the biggest benefit of the Harsin era so far is that they got rid of the people who were shaky about whether or not they wanted to be on board. And everybody that's left, they're on board. And it's a lot of senior people, the people who have gotten the most reps, who have gotten the most snaps, and that's who you need to be bought in. No, everybody else has no choice but to fall in line. So it's huge for not only the running back room, but the entire team that Shivers, somebody who has had, I get it, we haven't won the conference since Shivers has been here, Shivers took the helmet off of a player to seal the win against Alabama, and that's the most noteworthy thing that's happened since Shivers has been on this team. What's better than that? Listen, I did the thing. I'm on somebody's wall, cracking somebody's helmet off their head, and I'm bought in. You got to get bought into. So it's the best thing for us.
Before we move on, Ike, I want to address a comment by Corey Weber. Shout out to you, brother. Thanks for watching live with us, man, and commenting. He's not concerned about the guards. It's that center position and tackle position. I think that's a fair point, and I think that if there wasn't a coaching change, I would be just as scared, using play on words, of those positions, because we saw what happened with those positions last year, and the fact that we hadn't been recruiting well at the tackle position. But with a new coaching staff that's going to scheme, we're hoping to scheme around our deficiencies. Are you less as concerned with these positions, or is your concern level the same?
I am a healthy skeptic about just about everything. So until I see it, I don't really care what the hype is, honestly.
Right.
I have to see guys putting a hat on a hat as we're driving the ball down the field and us physically dominating people. Our offensive line, honestly, is getting a lot of hype outside of Auburn. For whatever reason, people feel like we're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the country. I think primarily because of two things. We have a lot of people who the class that they're in is junior, senior, right? So people just automatically assume, oh, you've got more snaps and you're going to be better. That coupled with the fact that we have Will Friend coming in, who's been traditionally really good at developing offensive lines. But those two positions have been ones that have been much maligned. I mean, specifically, we've talked about the center position and how much we feel as if that was an Achilles heel for our offensive line. The tackle position, I think, I think people have always been a little bit down on that a little too much. I just think the issue with the tackle more specifically was that the schemes didn't fit the guys that we had. Right? Like, we didn't have those tackles that were built for the speed rush guys on the outside. We had essentially guards playing tackle. So if we're going to be doing a downhill rushing attack, it's perfect. You got a bunch of guys who are made to maul against people who are used to using speed as opposed to strength. Just go down there and mash them. Cool. I'm good with that. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. No long developing play, so you don't have to worry about a speed rush. If the center position is solid, we should be solid across the front five. If the play calling fits the scheme fits the makeup of the people that we actually have along the offensive line, I don't see that as much of an issue. Again, the center is going to be important, specifically because they're going to be putting a lot more responsibility on the players on the field to make calls and understand what's going to be happening. And so the center is a huge part of calling that out and understanding where we need to be and slide protections and all those sorts of things. I don't question Nick Brom's smarts. I think that he's a very intelligent player. I think that he has not traditionally understood what he needed to do. And it seems as if that light bulb is coming on, at least in the film room. We'll see if it translates to game day. So until I see it, I'm still going to be having a eagle eye, that's better, on the center position. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, again, we saw what he did on tape, and that's our conclusions about him have been based off of what we've seen. So if we want that narrative to change, we need new film. We need new film on him that shows that he gets it, right? Yeah. So lip service can only go so far. Definitely want to ask you, I think this is a great question about Lawrence. Do we think that tight ends in the formations will help the tackles? Yes. Absolutely. I absolutely 100% think that they will, because you got to remember Bedell I think he was the O-line coach at Boise. So he understands what Harsin wants to do in terms of creating more lanes for the running backs to run through, those guys understanding their assignments. So yes, I think getting a guy as a tight ends coach who was your O-line coach, understands completely the scheme and teaching these guys their responsibilities, it would definitely help out the tackles, in my opinion there. Sure. So it's funny you mentioned tight ends, because we're actually transitioning in part of our show into our actual position group review, which consists of tight ends today. We're talking the defensive line and tight ends. So we're going to try to do a group on each side of the ball. And we're actually going to start today with discussing D-line. And there's a lot of news that has come out recently as we talk about defensive linemen. We're still unsure about what's going on with senior defensive tackle Tyrone Truesdale. His status with the team was reportedly still up in the air. He isn't listed on Auburn's official roster going into fall camp. He played 11 games in 2020. He had 11 solo tackles, 22 total, and 2.5 tackles for loss, no sacks there. Announced that he was going to take advantage of the additional year as a result of COVID and was going to return, which was going to add depth and help us out a lot along the defensive line. But it came out this past weekend that he is not with the team currently, or his status with the team is up in the air. Guys, just, we're going to talk about the defensive group moving forward, but just what are your thoughts about it? I hate it for him because I'm rooting for him to take advantage of this extra year and be able, if his goal is to try to get the attention of scouts, this would be a great opportunity for him under Nick Eason to prove himself as such. But starting with you, B. Will, what are your thoughts about this coming out?
Well, you said something, Nick Eason. This would be a very good chance for him to get some quality coaching here. And I don't think he would be expected to do a whole lot. I think you've got experienced transfers coming in to contribute. You've got some experienced guys who are here who look to break out this year. Him being a part of a multiple player tandem here was going to be his best chance to get improvement, get quality coaching, and to up his game. So for him to leave, I would get it if he was going to leave in the spring before spring ball got started, or right after the spring. Once everybody, they said, hey, here's what we're looking like. Here are the transfers we got. So here's what it looks like for you. I don't like that. Okay, thanks. I'm going to leave. For him to wait until now, and I don't know that he waited. We don't know what the circumstances are, if something else contributed to him leaving, but it's very.
Justin, not to cut you off, but Justin and Gabrielle have alluded to, and I saw this elsewhere, that it's some personal stuff, some family stuff going on with them.
Okay. Yeah. And see, that makes it. I think football wise, this was the best place for him. I think it was set up for him to have a very good senior year, whether that meant a lot of productivity or not. I think he was going to be a better player playing on this defensive line with these players under this coach this year. So for whatever reason he left, I hope he gets whatever it is resolved, no matter what it is. We don't want any players going through hell with family or, personal life or anything like that. So we want the best for him. We want the best for everybody, even if you go to another team. We want you to find what's best for you. We don't want you to beat us. So, don't go anywhere and come back and beat us. Don't do that. But I hope he finds what he's looking for. I hope he can get it together. And I hope if he wants to continue his football career, that he can get somewhere that lets him get better and contribute. Because I thought that's what he was primed to do here this year. So it's unfortunate.
Ike, any thoughts about this, or are you holding your thoughts till we get into the preview, or what are you?
No, I mean, listen, I don't know what the situation is. Of course, everything is just rumor right now. And as we are apt to saying here, we're not a rumor mill, nor are we like insiders. So we're not covering the team from that degree. We're just fans like you all giving opinions about what's going on. As far as specifically what's happening, I don't know. I've heard the same rumors as everyone else. I hope he's able to get back. He does provide some quality depth along the line.
Indeed.
If nothing else, he has the experience of the wars in the SEC that some of these other guys don't have. We did a Facts or Not where we were talking about whether or not, somebody like Lee Hunter could be a starter at the beginning of the year, or, Tony Fair even coming in as a transfer, whether or not he could come in. And, I was pretty firm on the fact that I think eventually, Truesdale would probably lose that starting spot. But I also think that he's going to be a solid contributor, and he has been for years. When Truesdale was in the game, I didn't feel like we had a super huge letdown along the D line, right? Like he wasn't, he's not Derek Brown, right? But who is Derek Brown? Like there's just not a lot of Derek Browns that exist. But he's a solid guy in the middle, strength and an anchor for that team. Definitely, probably, I would assume one of the leaders along the defensive line, just from his voice and steady nature. So hate to see it if he's not able to play. Wishing him all the luck in the best situation, whatever it is, because as B. Will said, at this time, it's kind of weird to not be with the team, right? Because there's not a lot of places that you can go at this point. So I don't think that this decision was anything other than personal for him, and hopefully he'll be back and ready to play before the season starts.
We hope the best for him. I agree with you, Ike. He definitely provides depth along the D line, and considering injuries and things that we've suffered from spring and guys who've left the program, you need guys who've been here a while, like Tyrone Truesdale, who can be at the very least a presence and a voice in that locker room. So we hope the best for him. Hope everything works out. And let's get to talking about these actual position groups. We have the first of many that we want to bring up is we're talking about the defensive ends. And of course, this is based on the 3-4 defense. We're actually going to talk about rush ends at another time. The guys, Aku Leota, Romello Height, those guys, we're going to talk about them another time. But the guys who are actually defensive ends in the 3-4 is who we're highlighting for this particular show.
Yeah. So let me again, let's kind of give some clarity around what you're going to see. The players listed as last time in order by their number, not how we think the depth chart is going to be. So there's nothing about that, not what class or anything like that. It's literally just in order by their jersey number. And as Caesar also said, so they're going to be doing some mixed fronts. So there's going to be a 4-down front and 3-down front. Likely the defensive end listed, and this is coming directly off of the Auburn roster the website from the Auburn football website. These are likely going to be the defensive ends here will play more in the 4 front. So a 4-man front D end will likely be where you're going to see these guys play most often, or they're going to kick in and be a defensive tackle in a 3-4. So just kind of giving you context around the difference between what you'll see here in defensive end, and I think defensive tackle is how I have it listed on the other one. Yeah, so there's a defensive end, there's a defensive tackle. Different positions. One is a 4-3 end, one is a 3-4 tackle, or anyway, doesn't matter. Got it. Let's move on.
So the guy who we see pictured here, of course, he's at the top, number 25, Kobe Wooden. Many of us are familiar with him. Had a really good season in 2020. He actually led this position group with 19 solo tackles, 42 total. So he assisted on 23 of those tackles.
He had 42 tackles. How many games did he play last year?
He actually played, I don't have that list, but I'm assuming I don't have that number for him.
Yeah, I don't think he played the full. I was just bringing up the fact that he had more tackles in 1 year than Big Cat had his whole career. Okay,
yeah,
anyway,
that's a small figure too. Yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're not.
I was sorry for cutting you off. I wasn't sorry for what I said.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Yeah, I knew you weren't sorry about the other part. So he tied Owen Papo with 4 sacks and had 9.5 tackles for loss in 2020. So there was a lot of sound bites coming out this weekend by him. He is, as expected, he's going to be one of the leaders up front. He definitely is. A lot of our production from the defensive line, he's responsible for, and he's returning. So a lot expected from this young guy. And my thing is, if he stays healthy, the sky's the limit from this guy here. Talk to me, B. Will. What are your expectations about this talented defensive lineman?
I remember we had a fax or nah over the offseason about where we would get who would have the most sacks. Would it be a transfer? And I said, nope. I think this guy right here is going to get us the most sacks. When you are playing without a lot of preparation, last year was his red shirt freshman year, and this year is his red shirt sophomore year.
Right. For
him to be productive in a year where our line was not very productive, in a year where we didn't have a stud to draw double teams last year, we were weak inside. We got pushed around inside, embarrassingly, in a few games. For you to still come up with the production on sacks and tackles, especially tackles for loss, that means you're special. That means you get it, because everybody didn't get it along that defensive line. We had somebody leave here and start talking some noise who had just as much opportunity as this guy did, and he didn't have that production. Nobody else had that production. So you put some weight on, you get them in the weight room, as everybody has gotten their weight up this offseason under Harsin. I expect double-digit sacks from this dude. because he's smart. I've heard him talk. I expect double-digit sacks from Colby Wooden.
Hey, listen.
The way
we'll
they've
take
got
it.
it kind of positioned, moving people around, like what was the player's name from Kansas? I don't want to say his name wrong.
Marcus Harris.
Yeah.
Marcus Harris. I expect Marcus Harris and Wooden, and we've been over this as we kind of went over the defense and the transfers coming in. We're going to be scary on our front. Our front seven, whether they guys are moving down to the line or staying back and playing 3-4 on the floor with the linebackers, we are going to be scary. And I think he's going to be a big beneficiary of having a defensive line that has to be accounted for. He was talking about Tony Fair clogging up the middle in practice already. He was like, oh, it's going to be fun this year.
Yeah.
I got somebody who's going to take two. I get one-on-ones. I got stronger, smarter, better at my position, and I'm getting one-on-ones. I can't wait, man. Like this, I don't know how they have Leota and Hall and it was somebody else. Brooks,
Romello Height.
But Height got hurt. Height got hurt.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. He had an ACL injury, I think. I don't know how severe it was or how long he's supposed to be out, but he did get hurt earlier after the spring game.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got, it's too many dudes. So you're gonna get one-on-ones. That's what I keep feeling as I hear people talk about it. I saw the transfers as they came in, what they were good at, how they were projected to play, and what Derek Mason is gonna do with them. I think Wooden is going to eat people alive. I'm expecting 10 sacks minimum. I wouldn't be surprised at 12 or 13 because I think that's how productive he's going to be.
Talk to me. I mean, let's set up this, because one of the things that was kind of concerning was the lack of push up front last year. Like once Derek Brown and those guys left, and from 2019, we know there was going to be a bit of a drop off, right? Like you don't get better necessarily by losing those guys, right? And the concern was on third and long, often too many times Kevin Steele had to blitz, bringing a safety, a cornerback, a slot back, like a linebacker. Like he had to bring pressure from other parts of the field because we were unable to consistently get a push up front. And we also saw at times, particularly the Tennessee game that stands out, it got to a point in that game where if Tennessee wanted to run the ball on us, they could.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk about how important it is let's just start first with getting pressure. How important it is for Colby Wooden to have that type of production that B. Will is talking about.
I mean, it's key. We haven't had it in a while, and I think that's been the one thing that has been the Achilles heel. I mean, despite the fact that the run defense was not great, not even when the defense did its job in keeping people into third and manageable situations, third and long situations, there was no guarantee we were getting off the field because, as you said, we had to bring blitzes. You know, I appreciate so much for Pruitt having so much faith in Garantano last year. Thank you, sir. Because, you know, he gifted us a few points there, and his inability to do anything besides throw the ball to the wrong color jersey. Tennessee might have beat us again, right? Because they were running the ball effortlessly for the majority of that game, you know? So defensive line is going to be important. I think one of the big things is having someone who can win in one-on-one situations, or being so dominant off the edge that it requires you to keep a back end or shade a tight end over to that side. Do something to keep people out of the pass, keep people in for pass protection, keep them out of doing what they need to do to be able to be multiple in how they attack us. If you got a guy who can consistently win those battles and you have to pay attention to him, it changes how offenses have to strategize against you, specifically if that guy is coming off of the edge, because that makes that quarterback get a little bit more antsy in the pocket, right? If you've got a space eater in the middle and then you've got a threat coming off the outside, that makes it really hard to scheme a third and long play. because you're thinking to yourself, I got to get this ball out of my hands as soon as I possibly can, or I've got to roll away from where this guy is. And then that limits the field of what that quarterback can even be able to do, because now he shrink the field. They only got half the field to be able to throw through. That makes it easier for your defensive backs to be able to cover stuff, because it's like, all right, unless somebody's crossing in front of me, I ain't got to worry about nothing deep to this side of the field. My safeties can start shading back the other way, right? So it changes how people have to scheme against you if you have that guy who can do that. So if you got a guy who can get double-digit sacks along the outside, it's a problem. That's a problem for defenses, for offenses, excuse me.
We're gonna continue to talk along the defensive line. We got a few other people we want to talk about, read their stats from last year. But before we do that, we're at the halfway point. Listen, if you're watching us for the first time, be sure to smash that like button. Drop a War Eagle if you're Auburn family. If you're not, just drop your city. We want to know where you're watching this from. We appreciate you joining us. But Ike, let the people know what we got coming up, sir.
Yes, indeed. Well, first and foremost, you want to make sure you're getting on this insider train. When we get into the season, we've got a lot of new stuff that's coming up for you. You've already started to see a little bit of what we're doing. We dropped one of the Betting with B Will segments. We got another one coming up for you all here this week, so be on the lookout for that. But a lot of that stuff is only going to be for insiders. When we're going to be doing these film breakdowns, you got these lovely Watch the Film t-shirts that you can get, but you can't watch the film with us unless you're an insider. You have to go hope that ESPN or SEC Network or whatever is going to be covering Auburn film breakdowns. Because if you want to watch film with the fellas here, you have to be an insider to do that. Even our game day experience, if you want to be able to chat live with us during the game day, you've got to be a member to do that, right? So make sure you're getting that locked in. Outside of that, you can get some of that merch from the merch store that we've talked about. I got another shirt that I'm probably going to be dropping the week before game day. That's going to be a little special treat for everybody. And I am likely going to be doing, people have been asking about flags and bumper stickers and stuff like that. I'm probably going to be doing some kind of special pre-sale thing, but I'm going to open that up to insiders first. So I'm going to be trying to do as many things to get those of you who have decided to give some of your money to us every month opportunities to take advantage of things. So we'll have that stuff coming up as the season gets closer. You can always come in and support us in this way and be able to support us supporting a great cause, which is the Lee County Humane Society. So if you want to do that, our GoFundMe is available. The link is there for you to be able to do that. Make sure that you hit that up. Today's giveaway is going to be the Watch the Film t-shirt. That is hashtag get your weight up in the comments if you want to be able to enter that drawing. And you know what? If you did it before, I just realized that I didn't start the thing to to pull in the people who already did it. I was like, wait a minute, do I have the hashtag get your weight up thing on here? So if you already dropped your get your weight up in the comments, do it again.
Please do it again.
We'll see a flood of those coming in now if you've already done that, because now I'm actually collecting it. So I was like, man, how many people have entered? And it's 5 because I didn't I didn't even start the collection tool. Anyway, but we are giving away tickets to the first game. So make sure you do. Well, they had to be here anyway. So if they're still watching, just drop it again. You're all right. It's just drop a hashtag. You're fine. First game, we got the ticket giveaway going on. We're going to be announcing that soon. The only way to get into that drawing now is to become a member. So you might want to make sure you do that. We'll talk to the people about the podcast real quick.
Yeah. You want to hear the lives, the Sunday, the weekend tailgate, and the Wednesday night war room? Well, all you got to do is find us, The War Report, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on Amazon Music. We're on SoundCloud as well. We're going to update it with the Wednesday night war room right now. Every Wednesday night, we're going to have the live. 2 days after that, we're shooting to have it up. Of course, if you really want to help us and guarantee that you get that Wednesday night war room and maybe some weekend tailgate and building rapport in podcast form quickly, you know what you got to do? You got to get us off these jobs. Get us off these day jobs. Get us off of these day jobs. I'm tired. I was gone all week last week. I missed the live. I didn't get the podcast up in time. I am upset. So you can help us out. Get more members. We need more views. We can churn out so much more content. I want you all to kind of sort of understand how much stuff we have planned. And we're like, yeah, that's going to be great. We need more time. Like every week, we are talking behind the scenes about how many different things we want to try and bring to you all. We need more time. So you can support us there. We're going to get more sponsors. The more you listen to the podcast, the more you watch us, we'll have more money. We'll be able to do this full time and get you that podcast quickly. But for right now, it's just the Wednesday Night War Room, and it's once a week. But that's the podcast. Go find it, man.
And we can do more. If we're off these jobs, we're bringing you even more content on top of this, so definitely, like, the ideas we have, we only have a finite amount of time to do that. So yes, be sure to help us with that. You guys have seen what we've been able to do throughout this off season, just devoting the time that we do have. Just imagine if we had more. So definitely support us. That means a ton. Also, guys, be on the lookout for the interview that we're dropping on Monday with Josh Pate of 247 Sport. Definitely, it's always a pleasure when he comes through. Very knowledgeable, gives great insight. You'll definitely enjoy that. So stay tuned to that. B, you saw a comment you wanted to address?
Oh, yeah. Lawrence Robinson asked a question that, I mean, it's just football. How much do you think our D-line helps out this phenomenally deep secondary? Immensely.
They help out everybody. They're going to help out if they're doing their job. If a certain player who we're going to talk about in a minute is able to take up multiple linemen on the offensive side, it's going to help out our linebackers play downhill, get to the ball. Offensive linemen aren't getting to the second level, and if you're forcing third and long situations, then you got that talented secondary can play aggressive and play on the ball. So absolutely, like, they are the key in all of this. We have a lot of talent on the back end, but if the D-line is doing their job, watch out.
Yeah, it's a symbiosis, right? Like, if you have a really good secondary, it helps your guys have, like, coverage sacks happen, right? Because the secondary is doing such a great job that it gives more time for the D-line. But conversely, turnovers happen because the defensive line is creating havoc, right? It's getting the quarterback uncomfortable. It's making sure that their run game isn't putting them in short distance situations because the defensive line is stuffing that. It is containing the quarterback who may be elusive. It is making him throw off platform, right? Like, people talk so much about how TJ Finley had a horrible game against us. Our defensive line was eating that game. The interception that he had, the fumble he had, that was because our pass rush was getting home consistently in that game. The games where you saw our defense be dominant, the defensive line was dominating the line of scrimmage, right? And so it made our defensive backs not have to cover as long. When they don't have to cover as long and that quarterback needs to make it, and okay, that quarterback's really only going to have 3 or 4 seconds. That means I can jump a route that's going to take longer than 3 seconds to develop because he's got to get rid of the ball, or he's got to throw it over the top. And I've got safeties that are ball hawking on the back end, so I can play a little bit closer to anything that's coming back. Like, it changes the philosophy of how you attack when you're not going to have to be in coverage for 10 seconds, right? When you talk about making a quarterback uncomfortable, it starts right there with the defensive line.
Yep, for sure.
Hold on. Somebody asks this question, and I want to make sure that I address this real quick. Bruce says, do your work people hear this? I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Texas Football Talk, thank you for jumping in here. We look forward to having you in the SEC as well. Another win on our schedule is always good.
Hey, Mike G hates Texas. I don't hate Texas.
Yeah, no.
It's friendly banter as far as I'm concerned. But
Mike does hate Texas, though. He does.
Someone from Texas stole his girl or something. I don't know what.
All his exes live in Texas. Like, he's straight.
That's hilarious. So let's get into it. Let's pick back up where we left off, man. Let's keep talking about the D-line. We've been spending a good bit of time talking about Colby Wooden, but let's talk about the other parts of the line. Here we go. We got the guy, and as Ike mentioned, if you're joining in late, this is not a reflection of the depth chart. This is just based on these guys' jersey numbers in which they're listed the way that they're listed. Here's what I want to ask you. You see how where Tony Fair is listed, 6'1", 330 pounds. Again, so a lot of sound bites coming from Colby Wooden, and he's according to him, he's guaranteed to take up 2 linemen. Well, I would hope so at 330 pounds.
Yeah,
He basically mentioned that he's exactly the plugger you want. He'll absorb guys and also get into the backfield. He's going to get guys out of the way and get his teammates set up too. So he feels good about what he is able to do, what Marcus Harris is going to be able to do because of his ability. Now, the question I want to ask you guys is, because again, I was always factoring in Tyrone Truesdale into the equation, which he's on another graphic that we have. Does this all but set it up for Tony Fair to actually be the guy up front in the middle starting?
I think so. I don't know. So some people are asking where are certain people. There's still another slide that we have for defensive linemen that are specifically listed at D tackle. So we didn't leave anybody out that is on the roster. Don't worry, we will have them coming up. But I think Tony Fair is likely going to be anchoring the defense up front if he's showing the way that they're saying. And again, he's a big fella. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to contribute along there. We've got the other guy here, Marcus Robinson, looks like he's going to be a space eater. I mean, just look at how big these guys are.
Yeah.
Ian Matthews is kind of small to be that tall. But
hate to cut you off real quick. I appreciate you. Risk no reward for dropping that off, man. Appreciate you, buddy. Continue, Ike.
Yeah, I think Tony Fair along the defensive line is going to get a significant amount of playing time. Again, specifically, he's got a ton of experience in Division I, albeit Conference USA, but still he's played against SEC competition and he fared well against them, no pun intended. So I think that he will definitely be in a position to eat along that defensive line. And if he's the space eater they say he is, again, if somebody is commanding if you can't block a guy with one guy, so there's only 5 offensive linemen, and if you have to occupy 2 of them with one person, that means linebackers coming downhill, right? That means defensive ends or tackles next to that guy getting one-on-ones consistently. So it's a bad proposition for the remainder of that offensive line to have to deal with guys who we know from a technique standpoint, Marcus Harris, we just talked about a Colby Wooden, a Dylan Brooks, a Leota, who have been known to be able to put pressure along the outside. You leave those guys one-on-one. We haven't talked about defensive tackles yet, but you get into the Dre Butlers of the world and Zacchaeus Walkers. Like, those guys are going to be able to do some dangerous things if Fair is able to be a 3-down guy against for us. So,
yeah, for sure.
And I think something that we need to be very excited about is there's somebody behind him who built almost exactly the same,
for sure.
Very highly touted. So now Lee Hunter can come in and not have to transform into a guy who's going to physically impose himself on SEC linemen, offensive linemen in year 1, week 1. He pretty much got a big brother blueprint that they transferred in for him and say, hey, you watch this guy. You're going to learn the fine points from your coach, but you're also going to see it in action from Tony Fair. And if we need to spell Tony Fair because he's a big man and may need to take some breaks, Lee Hunter is coming right there with everything laid out for him to flash and not have to be in every down defensive lineman nose tackle, but he's built the same. He's shorter, wider. That is such a huge benefit. Instead of wondering, hey, if Tony Fair's not in there, what's going to happen to us? And it's not that Lee Hunter can be what Tony Fair can be, one being a freshman and one being a super senior. It's that you see the talent, you see the ability, you see the size similarities, and we don't have to have a huge drop-off if we need to get this guy some rest on the sideline. That's going to be unbelievably valuable, especially later in the year.
Agreed. Is anybody else on this list that stands out to you that could, in the event that Tony Fair needs a breather, you see them being able to hold it down as well? Are we familiar with
Marcus Harris? Is definitely some. So again, you have to think about schemes, right? So if we're talking about a zero technique, which is typically in the 3-4, you got a 3-down lineman. Tony Fair is going to be lined up over center, zero tech. He can kick out to be a tackle in a 4-3. So you got 4 down. Marcus Harris being next to him is going to be a big thing. Just again, because of the experience and what he was able to do at Kansas. from a size standpoint, again, you got to look at Marcus Robinson. I don't know how much he's going to play as a freshman, but just from a size standpoint, he's got the build to be able to do that sort of thing. When we get over to the defensive tackle graphic and you see some of these other guys who we have along the D line, but the guy I think that people have been high on from the freshman group, undersized, but people are really high on him, is Tobichi Okoli. And I think I'm hoping I'm saying the young man's name correctly.
You did better than I could.
I've heard some good things about his ability to get in there and mix it up. So I'm looking forward. Like, he's just, again, 6'5", 252, not really big in comparison,
Right.
but like a 6'5" guy in the middle is somebody who you probably want to, if he's got a solid base and he's clogging up the middle, even if he's not getting a pass rush, he's somebody who makes the short passes over the middle difficult to do because he's in the throwing lane of a quarterback, right? Long arms, tall guys have always just been a problem on passing situations where you want to try to get short passes over the middle. So hopefully from a technique standpoint, he's able to get in and make some quality, stops in that arena.
Yeah, and I love this idea that Corey's given us. We might sneak around and sneak one of these in here one day, Corey. I hope one of these graphics show the fact that Virginia double dribble. They absolutely did, and you giving us some ideas down the road. So appreciate that, Corey. Let's talk about the remaining part of the defensive line. We haven't forgot about them, guys. Here it is. So here we got Zacchaeus Walker, Lee Hunter, Dre Butler, Jeremiah Wright with an asterisk next to his name because, of course, we know his situation. He's out, expected for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. You have J.J. Pegues, Marquise Burks, Tyrone Truesdale, who we've already discussed, and Nick Curtis. Now, to give you some stats based off of 2020, Dre Butler played a total of 9 games, had 5 solo tackles, 14 total, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 sack last year. Zacchaeus Walker played a total of 10 games, 9 solo tackles, 14 total, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack in 2020. Marquise Burks, who also played 5 games, had 3 solo, 4 total, 1 tackle for loss, and a sack in 2020. Those are the guys from this list who actually played. Jeremiah Wright actually played. He had some playing time as well last year. His stats aren't listed. He's not expected to contribute this year, so we're not providing his stats at this time. So looking at this list, and again, another soundbite from Kobe Wooden. He talked about how he felt like this was he felt like Dre Butler and Zacchaeus Walker basically have made some strides in this offseason, and he's expecting them to make some noise this year. What are your thoughts based on we saw some good things from Marquise Burks during spring? What are you guys' thoughts about this? B. Will, who do you like? I mean, you already mentioned Lee Hunter. Are you expecting him to be a big contributor this year, or what are your thoughts?
No, I don't expect him to be a huge contributor. I expect him to get some reps. I expect all the guys who are actually pretty persistent and consistent in practice. If they're showing effort, I think they're going to find some time for these guys. They're going to have to find time for these guys because you have too many brand new guys and a brand new staff. So you don't really know exactly what you've got unless they were there in the spring. And we didn't have that many guys there in the spring. I mean, there were 4 incoming people. So I think everybody's going to get some good burn here, especially, I mean, if Truesdale is really not going to be with the team anymore, there's some more reps that just opened up right there. We've got plenty of spots for people to fill in here. I really like, I'm biggest on Wooden. I'm second biggest on Butler. I like Butler's prospects. He flashed last year. And when you've got a deficient defensive line like we had last year, I was just waiting like, man, please, somebody make a play. And when I saw a play being made here and there, I saw the back of that jersey and I saw that Butler. I was like, okay. I'm interested to see how this goes. Burks as well. I think I'm probably 2A and 2B on Butler and Burks, just because I did see them flash last year. So a better year with better coaching, better strength and conditioning. I definitely want to see what they can do here, but we're not going to be deficient at defensive line at all. We're going to be, I think they're probably going to have to fight to get some guys in the rotation because everybody's going to be there and giving their best effort. That's something I think we can count on now is the people we do have, coaches are going to get their best effort out of them. So that's going to make it hard for some guys to find the field. But I think that's a good problem to have. It's a fantastic problem to have. So
listen, Walt, I will text Mike G this for you, okay? Since he's not here for you to harass him. JJ and the Wildcat, we know how much Mike G feels about the Wildcat. I'm hoping not to see it, but I don't mind messing with my friends. So talk to me, Ike. What are your thoughts about JJ Pegues?
Yeah, so let's go there.
Okay. All right. Okay.
This has to work. This JJ Pegues experiment has to work on the defensive line, in my opinion, right? Like, I don't know if he's going to get any offensive snaps, but you move a guy from the position he came in to move him to the defense. It has to work. So you need to get him out there doing it. He definitely has the athleticism, but he's had the summer program to get his strength and conditioning ready for that particular position for the constant battles, because he wasn't going to have those same kind of trench battles as a fullback, H-back, tight end, right? Like you're just not doing the same kind of constantly just trying to move people every single play. Like there's no play where you're not physically up against a 300-pound man, right? And it showed in the spring game, he was tired. And so this has to work. This experiment needs to be able to work. And I get from a physical standpoint, it's not just about his size and athleticism. There's a mentality that goes along with certain positions. And you have to have the kind of mentality that allows you to be relentless in that space. Play recognition, size, and speed. None of that matters if the effort's not there, the technique's not there, all of those things that are necessary to get you to the place. I'll tell you guys all the time, I listen to a lot of sports talk radio. And I was specifically actually listening to, they were talking about, it was about basketball. But it was a guy who was a former NBA player, and I forget his name right now, who it was I was listening to. But he was talking about how your brain has to align with what your body needs to do, right? And certain people just have a mental acuity for sports that allow them to see and react to things faster than other people. There are certain people, and I thought about myself, where at a certain point, it doesn't matter if I knew that was going to happen. You just don't have the athleticism to stop it or to do something, right? JJ Pegues, the athleticism isn't the problem. It's whether or not his instincts will allow him to get there faster, and his technique will allow him to do those sorts of things. So I like the move from the athleticism standpoint and the potential, but it needs to work, or I don't know how you keep that guy on your team. Right. So yeah. I'm hopeful that it works, because I think he's super talented. You guys know I was super high on JJ's potential as an offensive weapon. And I want him to be an Auburn Tiger. So I'm hoping that it works on the defensive line.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Walt asked, do you guys know if JJ has any NIL?
I don't keep up with who's
I don't know. I haven't seen
yet.
Go ahead, B.
No, I'm just saying I hadn't seen anything.
That's something for me to research. Don't know right off the top, but I am hoping that I'm with you, Ike. I don't know where, if it doesn't work out, where does JJ Pegues go from here as it pertains to at Auburn? So for a guy of his athleticism, his size, I'm really hoping that it does work out and that we start seeing him make some noise along the defensive line. But we're about to make some. Go ahead.
Having said that, though, if you bring that graphic back up, this is the group I think that I'm the most excited about for making a large leap from last year to this year. Zacchaeus Walker is a guy who didn't get a lot of snaps last year, who I was really high on. I
made some plays, man.
Yeah, he didn't. From a standpoint of him just coming in like in the bowl game, he was out there doing work so another year, new schemes, new ability to kind of come in and make an impact. I think Zacchaeus Walker is going to have a good year. We mentioned Dre Butler earlier. I think that he's going to be able to do some things. And then, you've got more experience with Marquise Burks. I don't know how much he's going to be in the rotation, but he's a solid depth guy. And then the freshman Lee Hunter. There are so many potential guys. We should be able to get back into that 8-man rotation, right? Where you're basically doing hockey line changes out there, and there's no drop off when you got the new guys coming in. So looking forward to that.
For sure, for sure. Well, listen, we're at the 1 hour mark, and how are we looking on those entries, man? Listen, you guys drop hashtag get your weight up because we're about to actually determine who's going to win a shirt.
Yeah. So again, I goofed on this earlier, and I didn't get the ones that were in here earlier. But again, if you aren't still here, then you weren't going to win anyway. So if you are still here and you dropped it in one time and you aren't sure whether or not we recorded your Get Your Weight Up entry, we are giving away a Watch the Film t-shirt. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Right now, we are going to be making this drawing in just a moment. We only have 69 entries and there are 239 people watching. So some of y'all just don't want our shirt, and that's fine because, you know, it costs us money to send it to you. So if you just want to save us, if that's what you're like, you know what, I just want to save them some money, so I don't want to enter because I'm going to buy it myself.
Or maybe they just want Corey to win, so they're just not going to enter it so they can increase his chances.
You can go and hit that weight, you know, go get your weight up in our merch store, and then you can go ahead and get the shirt yourself in that way, whatever. You know, so the warreport.com is where you can go and do that sort of thing. But we are going to be giving this shirt away. I have now 75 entries. Hopefully we can get 15. Can we get 15 more people out of those 200? Some of y'all like to ghost watch, right? Like you're so far away from your phone or your computer. You're like, oh, I don't really feel like going up. Just come on, drop it in the comments. Maybe you can win. Daniel says he wants Corey to win. That's why he's not entering.
I want Corey to win too.
I want Corey to win too. But you know, if Corey just really wanted the shirt that bad, he could have bought it by now. I'm just playing. I'm just playing, Corey. I love you so much, man. Appreciate the support. Corey's been a supporter for day one.
Corey's like, if I don't win, I'm just. He basically said it.
Yeah. Send Corey one so he'll feel like he won. That's what's up. Nah, but we appreciate all the support, man. I'm going to draw this thing when we hit 80. Boom. We just hit 80 as soon as I said that. So let's add this thing here to the stream so we can get this thing popping. Are you guys ready? Drum roll, please. Let's go.
And by the way, I want y'all to know, I went ahead and did my trying on these sound effects. It does not work on StreamYard because it gets drowned out by the voices. I tried, man.
Thomas Ponder. I saw that name drop in recently. He dropped his Get Your Weight Up in just a minute ago.
Mary Thomas says, I'm here.
Thomas Ponder, you are the winner. If you give us we're not gonna kick you out just yet, but we will redraw at the end of the show if we didn't get a chance.
We don't hear from you. We'll keep watching, but please make sure to say that you're here so that we'll know not to have to redraw once we get to the very end of the show. So if you're here, please drop your name in. One of us will be looking, and we'll make sure that we acknowledge you, and we'll move forward. Well, guys, let's go ahead and move to the offensive side of the football. Let's talk about the position that's often been neglected over the past several years, and it's tight ends.
Yeah.
Tight ends. Here are your tight ends, and again, they're listed by jersey number, not in fact of who's going to be on top of the depth chart, even though people have been raving about Landon King and his performance. The returning tight end who has the most receptions is obviously John Samuel Schenker. Last year, this guy played all 11 games. He had 9 receptions for 97 yards. The second guy behind him, there was actually a tie for receptions between Brandon Frazier, who played a total of 5 games. He had 2 receptions for 13 yards. And Luke Deal, who played all 11 games and also had 2 receptions for 11 yards. It's interesting to note here that there were no touchdowns among these tight ends in 2020. So we saw drills of tight ends catching the ball over this past weekend. We're hoping that we actually see that in the games under this offense. I think it's interesting to know if you guys who are insiders, and again, we encourage you guys who are not to become insiders, because you're going to get access to a lot of great content that we provide that's not on our live shows. We have a segment that we do call For the Record, where we'll take stats and break them down for you guys. And we actually talked about tight ends. How would they fare under Brian Harsin in year one and just under his tenure at Auburn altogether? And one of the things that I pointed out is that Brian Harsin has had a tight end on 3 separate occasions with 30 plus receptions in a single season while he was at Boise. That was Jake, who had 30 plus receptions in 3 different seasons playing under Brian Harsin. Nick Muse, who, if you recall, many of you may have been paying attention, he was at SEC Media Days. He was a tight end representing South Carolina, was speaking very well about Mike Bobo. Last year, he had 30 receptions for 452 yards and 1 touchdown last year. So between Brian Harsin and Mike Bobo, they actually use their tight ends as compared to what we've been doing with our tight ends. So the future looks bright for this position group. I'm interested to see who rises to the top amongst this group. I'm going to start with you, Ike. Who do you have your eyes set on in terms of this group here?
Tyler Fromm is my guy in this group. I like Tyler Fromm a lot because I feel like he can do everything well, right? So I think Brandon Frazier is probably the better pass catching tight end of the group.
Yeah.
Luke Deal's probably the best blocking tight end of the group. Schenker is a little bit of both. You know, we saw him do a little bit of both last year, but I think Tyler Fromm is the guy for me that will get out here and be an every down type of tight end, right? Like, you're going to see him in a lot of different formations, doing a lot of different things. I like guys that allow you to be multiple. What I mean by that is you keep him on the field, but you can do different things with him and not having to change your formation, or you can change your formation, I should say, without having to change your grouping on the field. Okay. So you can put Tyler Fromm in as a tight end that's lined up along the line. You can split him out. He's going to be a matchup problem regardless. He can block, he can catch, and he can get yards after the catch. That's the guy that I like the most from this group. You know who I would have liked the most out of this group if he were still in it. But, you know, hey, it's whatever. I'm not going to keep beating that horse. But the next guy, I think, from a pass catching standpoint and just being a matchup nightmare, is Brandon Frazier. I mean, 6'7", 267. He moves well. He's got decent speed. So it's, and then Landon King has been getting a lot of hype. Landon King is a smaller guy in this group. He's really more of kind of like a wide receiver, diminutive type of guy.
Yeah.
But he's still tall. And if he is anything like what they're saying, then he's going to be, what's the guy from Florida last year?
Pitts.
Yeah, they're giving him Kyle Pitts type of hype. I don't, listen, Oof. Kyle Pitts is one of a kind out there.
That's high praise.
Yeah, if he's that kind of athlete, then good grief, man. If we go to some sort of 22 personnel with a group like this, where you've got, one of the, maybe, Schenker or a Luke Deal in at the fullback / H-back, and then you still have 2 tight ends. Good Lord, man. Like, we're talking about helping a tackle out. We can run and pass out of just that grouping and still be able to put quality pass catchers out into a formation that present matchup nightmares for whoever. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this group is able to produce.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys just here that you can just, whatever situation you want to do, like we can have a traditional H-back, like you mentioned, Ike, with a fullback lining up in the backfield, or you can have guys who are out there just catching passes, lining up in the slot. B. Will, who do you like, man?
Hold on, let me just acknowledge this before you go, B. Will. Thomas, yes, we did see you. I left a comment in there. We saw Thomas Ponder has acknowledged he's here, so we got you.
Thomas, sure go ahead and shoot an email to business at the War Report to claim your prize, so we can definitely see you there. So if you're there, we acknowledge you there. Just go ahead and send an email there. Okay. So I see someone in the comments mention Sal Cannella. Interesting story about old Sal Cannella. Sal Cannella was recruited as a tight end, but ended up being moved to wide receiver. And that was something that we did not mention in our for the record. I noticed he was mentioned from a lot of the stats, but he was actually listed as a wide receiver, which buried him on the depth chart because we already had capable wide receivers who could do what they was asking him to do a lot better. So Sal Cannella never really got the burn or the opportunity as a tight end because the offense never required him to. So it's again, under this new staff, we're actually going to see the tight end be utilized the way that it should. B Will, talk to me. Who do you have your eyes on? Who are you looking forward to seeing actually get some burn and some opportunities in this offense?
I'm waiting. I don't think we're really going to see Landon King out there in earnest until next year. And it's from a physical standpoint. I know what they want him to do and what they want him to be. And that's for all the tight ends. They want physical point of attack blockers. We have an offensive line coaching the tight ends. You're not going to be out there unless you can block a SEC 4 or 5-star junior defensive end playing in a season where he looks to get drafted first round. Like that's who you need to be able to keep away from the quarterback. If you can't do that, then you're not going to be out there. And for me, that means Landon King, we're a year away. He's a year away. Dynamic athlete by all reports. A very good pass catcher by all reports. But I don't think they're going to put anybody out there who is a liability blocking. And for that reason, this year, Frazier is the one I'm looking at the most because a body that big, you can just box out. You can I can get shallow. I can go 8 yards and box out, and then the defense has nothing to do. What are you going to do? Nothing. If the quarterback puts it remotely in the right spot, then I got to catch, and that's a first down, depending on the down and distance. I like Brandon Frazier. I don't think it's fair for us to be able to expect one thing or another out of any of these guys because they didn't get any shot to do anything at all. And I think that was probably an embarrassment on our part as a team in years past. At one point, we didn't have the guys. We didn't have very good tight end players. And now we've had them. They were here last year. I have no idea why we did not go to the tight ends at all. Like that still baffles me. But I think Frazier is going to get a lot of burn. They're going to go with who gives them not only the best shot to keep the defense, the defensive line in check to help out those offensive linemen that tackle, but also Bo Nix, based on what we know, we're going to want to get that ball out of his hands quicker than the plays called for before. You're going to need somebody who is a reliable pass catcher. Reliable. That doesn't mean he has to be a dynamic athlete. I mean, traditional pro style offense, we know what Harsin wants. We know what Bobo wants. We know what they want. They want dependable pass catchers who are going to be sound blockers. And as long as these guys can do that, I think we may see 2 of these guys flash. I mean, Shanker's getting the first of the run because of his experience, which I think he deserves. But Frazier, Shanker, probably Fromm. We'll see all 4 tight ends getting some significant playing time this season, I think. And I'm going to be glad to see it. I'm most excited about Landon King kind of because of what we saw from Pitts last year. The idea of somebody that athletic lining up and changing the dynamic of the offense significantly. I mean, does Florida even look how they look without Pitt? He was a matchup nightmare. You need a guy like that.
Right.
And I think he's a year away, though. And I think it's okay to have him be a year away because you've got a lot of guys there that can get the job done this year. But Landon King's who I'm looking forward to the most. But again, he's a year away. So I'm looking forward to Frazier in the meantime, really becoming what we haven't had here. And that is a very good blocking, reliable pass catcher at the tight end position.
Got a question from Steve Ratley here. What do you guys think about JJ Pegues actually being utilized in the offense in short yardage situation, particularly goal line situations? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think it should be. That's the best case for him if he's missing the offensive side of the ball to say, hey, we're gonna run some stuff with you at H-back. And to get him in there, do some blocking, clear some guys out. So Tank or Shivers or Hunter can go for some goal line stuff. I think that's the best case for Pegues getting on the ball, going to get on the field for offense.
I agree. I expect to see him. I mean, and teams do it all the time. They'll select the D lineman to do that. He's just if Harsin and Bobo were to go that route, he would be an obvious choice. So remains to be seen, but I definitely agree. You guys got any more thoughts about the tight end group? I mean, I'm looking forward to actually seeing these guys get targeted and actually taking a lot of pressure off of, while the wide receiver group, which we'll cover in a few weeks, as they begin to assert themselves and get some confidence, you got other guys that you can throw the ball to. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to actually see the tight ends that we actually have get an opportunity to get the ball thrown their way, and what they do with it is on them. I'm curious to see who rises to the top. I think Luke Deal he's going to be a very reliable blocker for us. Lawrence mentioned the question about tight ends helping the tackles. I think Luke Deal will be playing a vital part of that. Everyone else, I'm just curious to see how they fit in this new offense, whether they're H-backs, traditional tight ends, or they actually do get a chance to showcase their pass catching abilities. I'm looking forward to it. Yep. Well, I think that's it, man. Unless you guys don't have anything else you want to cover, man, or discuss, we can begin to transition out. Ike, one last time, let the people know what we got coming up, sir.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, listen, you want to be on the winning team. Get in this group of members. Once the season starts, I am so looking forward to being able to get out here and do the pregame, halftime, postgame situation that we have been doing now. This will be our third season or second and a half season, something like that. Anyway, doesn't matter. We'll be back out here doing this again, and it's always fun, but I think it's going to be so much more fun with our new family of people that we have. So if you want to be a part of those chats, make sure you are an insider. Outside of that, of course, you can support us by getting out here, going to this merch store and copping some merch. Again, we'll have some new merch drops coming, but hey, we've got the stuff that's available right now. Some people ask about the white version of some of these t-shirts. Those are available out there in the store now. We don't just have the dark blue and the black versions. We've got a white and a light gray out there in the store for some of these now. So if you haven't been to the merch store in a while, go check it out. We might have something new in there for you, including the color changing mug, which we gave our first one away on Wednesday. The color changing mug is out there in the store right now. Donate to this cause, saving a pet. The Lee County Humane Society has partnered with us, and we are giving 50 cents on every dollar to them to be able to continue to get these rescues off the streets into a good home. So if you want to help support that cause, by all means, please go and do that. Caesar's already mentioned that we have the interview that's going to be popping up tomorrow with our guy, Josh Pates. But outside of that, we've got the podcast. Be Will, tell them about it one more time.
Yet again, get us off these jobs. Get us off these day jobs. Either hashtag is nice. I would just love to see that floating around on the interwebs. That would make me feel really good. The Wednesday Night War Room is going to be turned into a podcast and posted up wherever you find your podcast at: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. They've got podcasts, and also on SoundCloud. You're going to be able to get that. We are shooting for 2 to 3 days after the show happens, which would make it Friday, early to late Friday, Saturday morning at extreme circumstances. But hey, these day jobs may occupy our time. So if you want that podcast quicker, get some more people. Get them signed up, subscribe to the YouTube. Hey, we want more members, not only for you guys to get the content, but for us to be able to make you more content, better content, more consistently. The podcast is just one of those avenues. So go and check it out and find it. And we'll be back at you soon with more of it.
Dope. Risk No Reward asks, he wants to hear our opinion on if it'd be hard keeping Harsin. We actually did a facts or not where we asked how long we thought Harsin would be at Auburn. I think we did it like 2 or 3 episodes ago. Yeah. It's somewhere recently we did that. So Risk No Reward, check out that facts or not. We actually did a question like this related to this. So you'll hear our opinions there. Everyone, we want to again thank you guys for hanging out with us, giving us an hour and a half of your time on a lovely Sunday. Hope you guys continue to have a great weekend. For those of you who've enjoyed this show, please be sure to share it on social media if you're out there. Hashtag get your weight up. Add us on Twitter. We appreciate that a bunch. Let people find us since you found us. We appreciate that a ton. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at The War Rapport. We are TW Rapport on TikTok. Signing out for now. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.